Hello and welcome to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich and our guest is Fr Aurelio Fragapane, who is a Catholic priest in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. And we're going to be discussing Mary, Queen of Peace's message from Medjugorje, a little village in Bosnia-Herzegovina, for everyone on earth. Welcome back to the program, Father.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks.
So we'll start with Mary's message from January the 17th, 1995, I think it is. It's not very clear, but anyway. Mary said to everyone on earth, "Dear children, today I wish to tell you to open your hearts to God like the spring flowers which crave for the sun. I am your mother, and I always want you to be closer to the Father, and that He will always give abundant gifts to your heart, to your hearts." Thank you for having responded to my call. So we'll start with, "Dear children, today I wish to tell you to open your hearts to God like the spring flowers which crave for the sun."
Isn't that wonderful?
It's so beautiful, so poetic.
It is, but see, if the flowers don't have the sun, they're going to die. They're not going to open up.
Yeah.
And so I think what Our Lady's saying is, if you want to open your hearts, then start to pray. Because it's through prayer that God allows us to experience His love. And that love is like a sun ray from the sun.
Yeah.
But often there are clouds.
Yeah.
It's blocking us from experience God's sun or light and warmth.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty much saying that just like a flower needs the sun, we need God.
Exactly. Otherwise we, like the flower, like you said, the flower will die without the sun. We'll die without the Father.
Yeah.
Like our spirit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, everyone's striving to be the best that they can. But why not strive with God?
With God.
And allow Him to bring the best out of you.
That's
I mean, like this flower, if it doesn't get that sun, it's not going to fully develop. And so often people think that God's going to take away our freedom, or we're not going to be as happy if we have to go to church and follow the commandments. But in actual fact, we will develop to our full potential if we allow ourselves to bathe in God's love through prayer, just like a flower in the sun.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And Our Lady said, "I am your mother, and I always want you to be closer to the Father, and that He will always give you abundant gifts to your hearts." He will always give you abundant gifts to your hearts. That's so positive, isn't it? So beautiful.
It is. And I think Our Lady is speaking about her authority and responsibility as a mother.
Yeah.
She's reminding us that we should be listening to our mother.
Yeah.
I mean, we're meant to listen to our earthly mother.
Yeah.
How much more to our heavenly mother?
Yeah.
And if we fail to recognize Mary as our heavenly mother, then perhaps we haven't had that opportunity to be born again, as it were, as a son or daughter of God.
Yeah.
Because when you accept Jesus as your personal Saviour, you know, something changes in our life. We're no longer living for ourselves, we're living for God. And this is what Mary does. Mary always points us to Jesus.
Yeah.
And here she's wanting us to be closer to the Father. So how close are we to God, the Father? How distant are we?
And you can even dissect it and say, do I have abundant gifts in my heart? If not, then I know what to do.
And what are these abundant gifts, though? I wonder.
Yeah, well, we'll know if we do this. She says, I always want you to be closer to the Father. So the closer we are to God, we'll be able to, God will give us these abundant gifts to our hearts, and we'll know it because we'll be feeling it. You know, we'll see, gee, this is...
And these gifts, these abundant gifts to our heart really are talking about, you know, holiness, becoming more like God, which will help us in our daily living in this world that is often so difficult and challenging.
Yeah, because we are made in God's likeness and image, so we do become more
so
like God.
One of the gifts could be peace. God gives us peace. God gives us joy.
Yeah.
God gives us patience to tolerate certain people at certain times, you know. The gift of forgiveness.
Yeah.
There's abundant gifts, but that all comes from when we're closer to the Father, because we're allowing ourselves to be changed and become more like Him.
Yeah.
So we're able to love others unconditionally, just as God loves us.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And then the next message is on Wednesday, January the 25th, 1995. Our Lady said, "Dear children, I invite you to open the door of your heart to Jesus as the flower opens itself to the sun." It's very similar. Jesus desires to fill your hearts with peace and joy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There's the answer.
That's the answer. Yes.
They must be the abundant gifts.
Yeah.
Peace and joy.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone wants.
Exactly. That's what they want. That's what everyone wants in the end.
And it ties in with the message that we looked at last time, that, you know, that we shouldn't put our hearts on material things or earthly goals, because that doesn't bring happiness. You know, what brings happiness is this relationship with God.
Yeah.
And it's possible. It's possible for everyone, but it's up to us. And I think Our Lady tells us, as the message goes on, what we need to do.
You cannot, little children, realise peace if you are not at peace with Jesus. And that's also like what Mariana said. She said you cannot have peace unless you have peace with Jesus.
And so
there we go.
So this peace with Jesus is a good question. You know, are we at peace with Jesus?
All right, we'll have to get back with that one after this break. You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich and we're here with Fr Aurelio Fragapane. Welcome back to the program, Father, and we're discussing Mary, Queen of Peace's message from the 25th of January 1995. And a lot of it's about the sun and likeness with flowers going to the sun to get their life like we have to with God. So we'll continue. You cannot, little children, realise peace if you are not at peace with Jesus.
I've just realised we're coming up to 30 years of this message, which is extraordinary. And
or 43 of the apparition, isn't it? 43?
44.
44th anniversary,
44,
yeah.
So a lady's saying you can't realise peace, which obviously means you can't have peace or experience peace unless you are not at peace with Jesus. The problem is, what is peace? Often people don't really understand what peace is. Peace is not feeling good or being happy. It's about being reconciled to God. And, you know, during the Mass, the priest says, "The peace of the Lord be with you all. Let us offer each other the sign of peace." In Italian, the translation now, the new translation is, "Let us offer each other the gift of peace." And people shake hands or they bow like this, but really it's supposed to remind us of what Jesus said to the disciples when he rose. Peace be with you, which means that his sacrifice on Calvary has been accepted by the Father, and humanity has been reconciled to God, and that sin and Satan and death has all been conquered. So there is no peace really for people who lose a loved one, but we have that hope that one day they will be receive the risen life, just as Jesus did. And so it's sort of like this connection with the resurrection. And so Our Lady is really saying, look, if you're not at peace, if you're not in right relationship with Jesus, if you haven't really understood the resurrection or the birth of Christ, Jesus was born so he could die for each one of us, then you're not going to find peace. There is no peace. Otherwise, Jesus would never have come. If we can obtain peace through war or through what we're going to do in life, then we don't need God. The real peace comes only through Jesus.
Yeah. And a real relationship with Jesus, not like a superficial or worldly kind of thing. It's like you've got to go really in the depth of your heart to reach it.
Right, and it takes commitment. And this is the thing, like any relationship, any friendship, you can't just ignore the person. You've got to, continue that friendship. You've got to be in contact with them. You've got to communicate with them. You can't just sort of say, oh yes, I know so and so. Yes, I know God. I believe in God, but do you know him? It's the same with friends. Do we really spend time with our friends? Or is it just a message that you just send, and you never see them?
Or are you on the phone all the time when they're there? So it's something you have to work at for sure. But then if you don't work at it, you don't get that peace. But if you do work at it, you do get that beautiful peace. So it's worth it.
It is.
Therefore, Our Lady said, therefore I invite you to confession, so Jesus may be your truth and peace. So now we go on to the process of confession.
Well, which really talks about what we were talking about, that God has reconciled us, and that there is no peace unless we accept that reconciliation, that sacrifice of Jesus. Every time we go to Mass, we participate really and in that reconciliation, and we celebrate it. We actually come part of it, that we actually become people who can reconcile others to God. And that's our mission as Catholics, and as Christians, that we ourselves are at peace with Jesus, and then we reconcile others to Jesus because we're at peace with Jesus. And confession is the place really to examine our life and acknowledge the areas that, okay, we've failed. We've failed to pray. We've failed to go to Mass on Sunday. We've failed to respect and love others. Often people say, oh, but Father, I haven't killed anyone. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. I said, well, have you loved as God has loved us? Because that's the new commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. No one can actually say they're perfect and that they've been able to love as God has loved. It's a different measure of love.
And also people judging other people, I think that's a really judging people is not a good thing. When people sort of come to their own conclusion about someone else and judge them, I think that's something else that people need to search their hearts. Are they doing?
It's part of our human broken nature, isn't it? And this is what needs to be redeemed. And it's through the sacraments like confession and receiving the Eucharist that we begin to experience peace, but then we're able to give that peace to others. I mean, what a wonderful gift that we can bring peace to others.
That's the most beautiful gift, isn't it? So we'll go to the next part. Therefore, I invite you to confession so that Jesus may be your truth and peace. I don't think we're going to have time for the next part, so we'll have to do that when we get back.
Okay.
But so we'll have to. I think we'll be going to a break very soon now.
Okay.
But we'll do the rest when we get back. So
sure.
Enjoying the program so far?
I hope so.
All right. Well, we're going to a break now. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich and our guest here is Fr Aurelio Fragapane. Hope you're enjoying the program so far. Welcome back to the program, Father. And we'll continue with Mary's message from January the 25th, 1995. As you said, it's, what did you say, 30 years?
Nearly
from
30
today.
years.
Yeah, nearly 30 years. So Our Lady said, and that's also my daughter's baptismal date, 25th of January. But not 1995. So little children, pray to have the strength to realise what I'm telling you. So pray to have the strength to realise what I'm telling you.
Well, often we don't want to be in reality. We're in denial. And we convince ourselves that what we're doing is right. And we continue with that. And it's very much part of our human broken nature that we don't want to change. We become very comfortable. I mean, just an example that just comes to mind as we're talking is when I was doing my nursing degree at Australian Catholic University. We all had our little seats, our special seat where we would be sitting in the lecture theatre. But from time to time I would sit in a different spot. And it would unsettle everyone because, you know, if I sat in their spot, then someone would sit in someone else's spot. And you just feel the uneasiness of people not wanting to change because they're put in a situation where they have to say hello, perhaps, to someone new. So what Our Lady's saying is to have the strength means also to have the courage. You know, make the appropriate steps, take the appropriate steps to be in communion with Jesus. So in order to do that, you need to pray. So she's saying, look, pray first, then you get the strength to go to confession. And having gone to confession, you will see the truth of your life and you'll be at peace. Because you'll experience God's love and forgiveness, and then you'll be able to bring that to others. So often people don't want to admit, you know, what they've done or who they've become, because often we become who we're the result of our decisions. And if every day we're failing to pray, every day we're failing to love, then we're becoming someone who has gone away from God. And this ultimately, this message is a message of hope, as I was saying the other time, and that we're invited. It's an invitation.
And also Our Lady often says in different messages to put God in the first place in your life. To always focus on God.
It is, I mean, look, it's hard. But it's a decision we make every day. It's not something that, we've decided. No, it's every day we need to decide to pray. And by praying, we're allowing God's Spirit to guide us in truth. I mean, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. So the reason we want to come to the Father is that we want to enter the fullness of life. We only get this life, well, this earthly life, and so if we want to live it well, we must live it for God and with God, and in God. We must breathe always like a prayer. Every breath that we take should be a prayer, which is really an acknowledgement of being in the presence of God. Well,
Our Lady did say something similar once. She was talking about our prayer life should be equal to our breathing. Like if we don't breathe, we die. If we don't pray, we die spiritually.
Just earlier today I celebrated Mass in a nursing home, and I didn't give Holy Communion to a particular resident because the chaplain there was saying that this person wasn't Catholic. Well, she got so upset, she was going to walk out. And so when I went to speak to her, she revealed that she was Orthodox. And I said, oh, well, you're allowed to receive communion. And she was saying, I felt excluded. And I said, well, look, these are the rules of the Church. But you're allowed to, because the Catholic Church acknowledges that your church has valid sacraments. But I thanked her at the end of the Mass, because I said, it's so nice that you're so hungry for Jesus. You stood up. You had the strength to realize you're right. You wanted to receive him into your heart. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to really desire to have Jesus and to want him. It's sad for me sometimes when I see so many people coming to receive Holy Communion, especially at funerals, and they don't know what to do, which signifies they don't go to Mass every Sunday. They haven't been to confession for years. And so there's an opportunity here for people to be renewed in their faith and love of God, but they don't take that opportunity. There's no real desire to receive communion. Everyone else is going up. Well, I will just go up and receive communion, but there's no transformation. There's no change. There's no peace. There's no hope.
Yeah. All right, we'll go on to the next sentence. Our Lady said, so little children, I pray to have the strength to realise what I'm telling you. I am with you and I love you. Thank you. I am with you and I love you. Thank you for having responded to my call. Imagine thinking that, really like meditating upon that.
So she's with us in our journey of faith, just like Our Lady was with Jesus until his moment of death. Our Lady's saying that because we're now adopted sons and daughters of God, and because she is the mother of God, she is attentive to our needs just as she was for Jesus. She's always there in the background. And that should give us the strength, that should give us courage to go to confession and to be renewed and restored.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on
You're
the
welcome.
program, Father Aurelio.
You're welcome.
It's been wonderful having you here, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
All the best for 2025.
Thank you.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. I hope you enjoyed the program, and may you feel God's presence with you always, and Mary's as well. Mother Mary. Bye for now.